Welcome to the SOMOS framework for risk assessment. And in this episode, we will look at the phase of understanding. The SOMOS model consists of 5 phases or steps. In step 1, we looked at the phase of exploring. In this phase, we described your multi-use system. We had a look at relevant policies. And we made an analysis of who your stakeholders are. Now we will move to the next step, which is the phase of understanding. In this step, we will identify threats, like hazards, to the multi-use system, implement a participatory risk assessment, and identify control options, mitigating measures, and coping strategies. What is the role of the stakeholders in this step? Your stakeholders can assist in developing a shared identification of hazards and risks. So make sure you involve your key stakeholders. Also consider whether you need to have government on board, either because there are already existing rules and regulations, or together with government you want to regulate your multi-use operations. Also ask the question, who else do we need to have on board in this process? There are many tools you can use to make a risk assessment, ranging from very simple checklists and what-if scenarios to complex probability estimations and Bayesian networks. But first you have to ask yourself the question, for whom am I doing this risk assessment? Is it for myself and the other partner in the multi-use, and do we have to regulate risks that we see in each other's operations? Or do we have to do a risk assessment to obtain a permit or a license? Or do we have to do it for the insurance company? The basic setup of a risk assessment is first identify hazards. Then, who or what will be affected by this? And how will they or it be affected? What will be the impact on health and safety, damage to property, or environmental impact? And what is the chance of this development happening? And what can we do about it? One of the tools you can use is an event tree. What if something happens? This leads to other things being affected, and that will have an impact, and that will create damage or loss to the system. This is a way to analyze the impact of an event happening. A fault tree works in a similar fashion, but starts with the impact of a hazard and then tries to analyze where the impact came from. In this case, the impact was marine pollution, and it stemmed from external factors, in this case bad weather and sea conditions, for example, and human error, which was caused by fatigue and miscommunication. In addition, a very practical tool is a so-called probability estimation, or estimating what the chances are that something will be happening. In the example below, you see that when there is an explosion on board a ship, there's a 20% chance that there will be no fire and 80% chance that there will be a fire. In 99% of the cases, the sprinkler system will work and you will end with a controlled fire. Only in 1% of the cases, there will be a non-controlled fire on board. Since multi-use is starting up, there is still a lot we do not know today. But we will learn over time. And maybe today we don't know the probabilities of events happening, but we can have our expert judgment, our experience. We can, of course, with our stakeholders assess whether risks are being perceived as being very high, moderate, low or very low, highly unlikely, unlikely and likely. In addition to the likelihood, there's also the severity or the consequence of something happening, being slightly harmful, harmful or extremely harmful. If you combine the likelihood with the severity or the consequence, you have cases where the risk is tolerable or trivial, the green boxes in the figure below. Then you have cases of moderate risk, the yellow boxes in the figure. You can have substantial risk, the orange boxes, and you can have intolerable risk, the red box on the bottom right. Now we have mapped and analyzed the risks and hazards. Then the question is, what can we do? Can we reduce the risk, or can we reduce the impact when something happens? So we have to identify control options, mitigation measures, and coping strategies. So in summary, together with your stakeholders, determine risks and hazards. What are the chances of such an event happening? And what will be the impact of the event? Is the risk perceived as being high or low? And is the risk acceptable to you, to the other in the multi-use, to rules and regulations, to the insurance company, or any other stakeholder? And what measures can we take to reduce the risk? In our next video, we will move on to the phase of appraising.